What the heck is a pour over? The pour over coffee maker is an all glass coffee maker. And to be honest, it's the first one I've seen like this, and it's the first one I've used like this. You don't need a paper filter. You don't need a metal filter. All you need is the pour over and your coffee. It's designed to be more of a direct experience with your coffee rather than messing around with any metal or paper flavor in your coffee. Let's give it a shot. So the pour over comes with a couple different pieces. It comes with the main brewer, which is this top part, and a base for it. As you can see, it's got a glass filter in the bottom with quite large holes, and it's pretty basic besides that. It's got a little riser here for you to put your thing on. It's got a cup or a carafe and a coaster for that. And it also has a little diffuser here to make for a more even pour that you kind of put on the top of the brewer while you're brewing. I also have my ground coffee right here. That didn't come with it, obviously, but that is the main components of the pour over. All you really do is you put your brewer on there and you put your coffee in there and you brew, and that's about it. So why don't we brew with this? I'll show you how it works. Basically, it works with something called cake filtration, which basically, it's kind of ingenious actually. These holes, you might say, oh, that's a pretty big hole. The coffee grounds are just gonna come right through there. And some of them do at first when you're first loading up your coffee, but then what happens is they kind of clog up and the coffee kind of acts as its own filter. Eventually, it just doesn't keep pouring through there like sand. It eventually will kind of clog itself and the coffee itself will act as a filter that's even finer than the holes in there. So let's brew with this, shall we? I like to load the coffee in before it's actually on the cup. That way any grounds kind of spill into this little riser here. Pour Over recommends doing a 20 gram to 320 ml recipe. Well, that's a bit bigger of a cup of coffee than I would normally do, but let's start with that. I ground it just a little bit finer than I would grind a French press. And that's also what Pour Over recommends as well. So let's start there and let's load up our coffee. I'm just gonna pour it in. I'm gonna pour all my coffee in. And I'm gonna shimmy it a little bit. Now, when I lift this up, you'll see there is definitely some coffee there, but you'll also see it's not still coming out. It's kind of clogged and the cake filtration is already started. So I'm gonna grab my scale and my kettle and then we can actually do a brew. Okay, so I've got my scale here. I'm gonna put the pour over with the coffee on top of here. I'm gonna do it very gently just so I don't disturb any more grounds and allow them to fall into the coffee there. And I'm gonna put the diffuser on top. So I'm just gonna brew it like I normally would. I'm gonna do a bloom phase, 50 grams, and then I'm going to do a single pour all the way up to 320 grams of water. So I'm gonna start my timer just so I can see how long this takes. I'm gonna do my bloom first. $50 grams hasn't quite covered all the water, so I'm gonna go just a little bit more. There we go. I'm just gonna let that bloom for a few seconds. All right, now I'm just gonna do a slow pour all the way up to 250 mils. Now this diffuser up here prevents you from agitating that cake too much that's gonna be sitting down there. So you don't want to disturb that too much because what that will do is that will allow more grounds into your coffee. Okay, so I'm up to 320 mils. I'm actually going to take the diffuser off and I'm going to give this a stir up here. I'm not going to stir too deep because I don't want to disturb that cake, mess up the filtration. Then we're just gonna let it drain. And hopefully that should give us a bold cup of coffee, no papery taste. Personally, I don't find that most of the time I get an overly papery taste from my pour overs. I always rinse my filters, but this is kind of cool, so I'm excited to try it anyway. while we're waiting, this would be a great time for you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you have a request for a video that I haven't done yet, I would love for you to drop it in the comments because I love answering your questions. I'm here for you. All right, so my brew's finished. It took about 4 minutes, so I might go a little coarser next time on the grind. Let's just put it on the coaster here and let's have a sip. That is a good cup of coffee. I'm drinking a coffee from Ethica Roasters out of Toronto, light roast, very good. Lots of body, just like they say. So good. So when you go to clean the pour over, basically they just tell you to dump it out and rinse it out in the sink. I've done that. It makes a little bit more mess than a pour over, where you just kind of dump the whole filter out. But again, no paper. That's kind of the main selling point of this thing. So a couple thoughts for you if you are considering whether or not to buy a pour over. It's definitely a unique coffee drinking experience, and they kind of really lean into the no metal, no papers touching your coffee. That being said, I'd be willing to bet that most of your water, but right before you brew your coffee, goes through a metal kettle. So take that for what it is. I will say it is a very unique and fun brewing experience. So there is that. Is it going to replace a pour over for me? Probably not, but I definitely will pull it out from time to time when I just want to do something a little different and a little fun. It does give a really good cup of coffee, and the amount of grinds that kind of translate down into your brew, provided you load it on top of the coaster as opposed to your cup or your carafe, it is actually pretty minimal. And it's kind of neat. So that's a pour over coffee. Little different, little unique, a little bit more messy on the cleanup, but again, you don't got to worry about filters. That's a lot more eco-friendly. Yeah, the cup of coffee is very good as well. Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions about the pour over, drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any other video ideas, please leave them with me. I love answering your questions. So hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Cheers.